So let's talk about the easiest way to resize and format images for Squarespace. Now you can do this one at a time using Photoshop or Tiny PNG or a whole bunch of other web applications. But if you have a whole bunch of photos, it's a huge pain. So there's an easy way to do this so it's nice and simple, but you have to have Photoshop. This doesn't work with Elements, and I can't think of any free software that would do this as well. You really do need to use Photoshop. So the first thing you want to do is organize your photos into a folder. I've done that here on my desktop, and let's take a look at those photos. So right now we have 7 photos, and immediately I see that there's a problem. We can't even tell what these are. And then if we look at these, some of these are way too big, so we also need to resize them. So that's what I'm going to show you how to do. But the first best practice you want to do is actually rename these photos. And so I recommend giving them an SEO-friendly name and also a human-friendly name. So for example, this one would be wedding flowers. So we can see what that is. This one here, you know, we can say that, call this passport and map. And so on and so forth. This is choir and singing and performance. Again, it helps you to identify what the image is, and it also makes it just a little bit more SEO friendly, just with the way Squarespace reads all those files. Let me call this one. So now once you've got those all named, and we'll say this one is, here we'll fix this typo right here. You want to open Photoshop. And I'm using Photoshop CC, which is the Creative Cloud version. It's the most recent version. If you have an older version of Photoshop, it may not work as well. So just FYI, this is referencing the latest version of Photoshop CC. So you want to go to File, and you want to go all the way down here to Scripts and see where it says Image Processor. Click that, and you'll get this pop-up. And there's a bunch of options here. My presets are basically the way you want to do it. And the first thing you want to do is to select the folder. Remember, this is why we assigned everything to a folder. You pick that folder, and this will process everything in that folder. You can choose whether or not to include subfolders or not. So if you say had an entire section of photos and then they were categorized, you know, with photo type A, photo type B, photo type C, that would then also resize everything within those folders. If you only want to resize the ones in the main part of the folder, then uncheck that. I usually want to do them all, so that's my default. And then you have this option here to save in the same location. That's what I usually do. And you can choose some other options as well. If you want to have them go to a specific place versus just save nested in that old folder, you can do that, but I usually have it saved in the same location. This section here is going to require a little bit of tinkering. Just depending on what you're starting out with, you may need to mess with this a little bit to get the desired results. This is what I usually start out with is quality 8 and check save as JPEG. You don't want to use these other two options because they don't work for the web. Always want to have this check convert profile to sRGB and then resize to fit. Squarespace says that their ideal image size is 1500 pixels wide. I've been doing them a little bit larger lately because what I've found is that a little bit larger, if you want to use them on banner images and that sort of thing, works better. But again, 1500 to 2000 will all work just great. Down here in section 4, this is where you can put your copyright info. So you can see I have mine here. A little trick if you want to do a copyright symbol, if you're using a Mac, it's Option G. So that gives your photo a little thumbprint basically. And so you just check all these settings, ignore run action, ignore include ICC profile. Basically, it's just those basic settings. And then you click run, and it'll process. And you want to do this before you add any watermarks or anything like that. You just want to let it process. It's really quick. If you're doing a couple hundred images, it'll take a while, so go get yourself a cup of coffee because you can't use Photoshop while it's running. So let's take a look at that folder. And now, like magic, you'll see there's a new folder called JPEG. And you can see, if you look at the file sizes, they're nice and small. This is 250 kilobytes, 2,000 pixels wide, 242 kilobytes, 2,000 pixels wide. So we got the results that we wanted. These are nice, lightweight images, and they're not going to slow down your website. And so that's all you need to do to easily resize images for Squarespace using Photoshop.